I call the meeting of the Davenport Park and Rec Advisory Board in session. May I have roll call, please?
Coiner. Here. Dasso. Greenlee. Hugh. Kiefauer.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Powell.
Here.
Schurtz. Wittenmeyer.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is approval of the March 21st meeting minutes. You've had an opportunity to review it, and at this point, I would entertain a motion
I move
to
for
approve.
acceptance.
Okay. Is there a second? Second. Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the March 21st meeting minutes. Any additional comments? If not, those favoring or approving the minutes signify yes.
Yes. Aye.
Abstention or no? They've been approved. Thank you. We do have public comment this evening, and Stephanie Rittmer has requested some time to speak, and we will welcome you again. Thank you.
Hello all, thank you for your time. And I've come here again to speak about the dog park, the DOLAs, the dog off leash areas. There happened to be a traffic accident there on Marquette, right in front of our dog park. Actually, this was on March 15th, and it actually hit one of the peoples that was inside the park and damaged the fence a little bit also. We've had some problems with people speeding, and evidently it appeared that these two were drag racing or racing each other. For the majority of the time, most of the time, the cars they're not so bad, and there's boats and the trailers, and they're not so bad when they drive by. They abide by the speed limit, and if they are really going fast, then there's a couple of us that run up to the fence and kind of wave our arms. What we were wondering and it's controversial about putting a speed bump, speed hump, maybe a digital speed sign to see if there really is a need for that. My understanding is that the woman that really advocated for the humps on 31st and 32nd Street between Spring and Eastern up in Davenport, she went door knocking, trying to get approval from her neighbors to get this implemented. But now the problem is that the cars are racing in between to try to make up for that time. So in effect, they have an increase in the noise, and the issues really didn't get absolved. So that was should we do this or should we not do this? But maybe a digital speed sign would help curb that and see if there truly is a problem or not. There is a problem with parking. When they have the football tournaments going on, the soccer and the rugby, our parking gets severely limited. There is that street that lies between the two fields. You've got Marquette, you have the Parks and Recreation right here, the building, Biederbeck Drive. This little street runs parallel to Biederbeck and then Marquette here. So it's just a little street. They had, what was it, that doggy Easter egg hunt. They used it as kind of a street venue type thing. If we could put some parking there, that would alleviate the problem. And there's children crossing the street going to the splash park. The car is speeding. And then, of course, our people getting in and out of their cars. And then the parking, the people that are going over to the football and the rugby, they have to cross the street also. So if they had parking over on that little side street, that would alleviate and take the stress off of the parking, the problem with anybody getting hit or killed, and that's the last thing we want to see. And we're talking about the children and going over to the splash park, and then also the children coming into the dog park's been a problem. And I think we've kind of put a little bit of, we've educated a lot of people, and also there's no spring break right now, but now we have the warmer weather and the rules are posted there, and thank you for that and putting them right there where everybody could see, because we could just point. And so that's helped some, but the children crossing the street, the speeders, the parking, and also who does take care of that parking on, in front of the dog park? Is that Parks and Recreation or is that Public Works?
I don't know myself. Perhaps we can, yeah, I would.
Public Works? And at North Marquette, they have a problem also with the parking issue, because theirs is along the sidewalk, is parallel parking. There's 2 handicap spaces right there, but if they could make that angle parking, that they would have some additional spaces there also. And they're not opening their doors and stepping out onto oncoming traffic and, hopefully not getting hit. There was a woman that came down to our dog park, and we had a long discussion about the issues with North Marquette also, and there's still the same problems that has been there for quite some time, the small dog area being larger than the large dog. And then somebody said, why can't they just switch the signs instead of moving the fence? So, and just switch the signs on the enclosures. The small dogs are still escaping from the north gate where the lawnmowers come in. Those are the tiny, tiny ones. The watering fountain is still on the outside of the park. She was saying that there needs to be more trees, more shade up there, and there is 2 existing shade structures up there now with some picnic tables. And she was also saying that it would be helpful to have some picnic benches up there, and the ones where the dogs would not get their feet or their legs falling through in the slats. As you say, she's noticed an increase in the people coming and the need for more seating and spaced out a little bit.
I'm going to have to interrupt. Do you have a couple of, we have our 5-minute limit, so are there one more item quickly?
The tunnel that is there now, there was weep holes that was drilled. If we could have that shed that was promised to us a year ago that blew down and never got replaced. There are so many items that come up, okay, for instance, a plunger for the water fountain right now is plugged up. We need broom, we need shovels. We could help clear it, we could help maintain it so your employees aren't taking up their time, because we're right there in the morning, and for something that comes up on the after hours or on weekends, we could take care of it real quick, keep the walkways clear at the pea gravel so nobody slips or falls. And yeah, that was another main issue. The water fountain there has an ability for a hose attachment that would really be helpful. And our trees that were promised a year ago for our windbreak, we could help water those and keep them alive, and if we had a hose attachment. So, yeah, there's people that are willing to do this and willing to take up and do the work and the hard labor or the minimal labor if we had the steward forms and if we had the tools in the shed. So, yeah.
That is a long list, but
Yeah,
Yes.
there's plenty. And you had said something about perhaps having a dog committee or something. It would be helpful to be able to communicate more on a regular basis. Or I could keep continuing to come down here every month.
your coming and bringing up this list is important. And our goal is to take it into our work And we've got it noted and appreciate you bringing it to our attention at this time.
Oh, what, the small dog area, my understanding is that there wasn't any talk about having a water fountain or any benches in there. Is there gonna be? To meet the guidelines for the DOLA for next year, the small dog enclosure?
So we are still waiting for, that was part of the park development program that we had submitted for the flex area. But the first round of funding would be to be able to actually create the space.
Right.
And then it would have to, we would seek additional funding to do other things in there. So it would end up getting phased out, and we're still waiting to make sure that it has been approved.
That's what we were wondering, if it was gonna be like a 2-year process, or,
Yeah, it's gonna have to be phased.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you for
Again.
bringing it all to our attention. We appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
There is no old business stated on our agenda, so we will move on to new business. And there is the project update presentation. And so we will learn more right now. Thank you.
Thank
Chad
you.
will do that.
Can you hear me? Is this on?
Very loud,
All right.
yes. No,
All right, here we go. So wanted to take an opportunity as we head into the spring and summer. We are busy in construction, as you guys are aware. We've had a plethora of ARPA-related funded projects, CIP projects, park development, and wanted to take this opportunity to give you an update because we are quickly approaching completion on a lot of this stuff. So, starting with ARPA projects, the first one is the Fairmont Community Center. Again, just to recap, the cost on this one was a little over $3 million. This is funded through ARPA funds, and it is a small to medium-sized community center with a half-court gym, a rentable lobby area, office space, with the exterior also being able to showcase movies. So it's under construction. If you've been by Fairmont, we are anticipating, there's been a couple material delays. Most recently, the translucent panels on the exterior were delayed in shipment and now are expected towards the end of May, beginning of June. So and that's sort of the last thing besides site cleanup. So right now we are sitting at an anticipated completion of June of 2024. So with that, we will likely do sort of a soft summer program offering and welcome the community into the space with full programming commencing in the fall. Multi-sports courts, so this was another ARPA project that is going into 3 parks, Cork Hill, Van Buren, and Harrington. So these are starting under construction now. The anticipated completion will be July of 2024. And this includes a multi-sport combination space with the Musco mini pitch system, which gives lights so it can be used after hours. So this is a flexible recreational amenity coming to those 3 parks. Dose Splash and Play. So this is the project that replaced the decommissioned Dose Pool. It's a combination playground splash pad. It is currently under construction as well. Anticipated completion is June, so we are optimistic we will have this feature open for the summer. If I can back up, I failed to mention one thing. Our May meeting will be our annual spring parks tour, and our route this year that we're going to highlight and take you around to some of these projects so you can see them in real time, I guess. So Dose will be one of those. You'll get to see Cork Hill multi-sport court. We'll go by the Fairmont Community Center as well. It should be complete enough to where we can enter the building and walk around and you guys can see the inside. And then further on in this, the other stop will be the Credit Island Nature Playground. Just some construction photos. The first, these are the renderings of what it'll look like when it's done. These are some of the ongoing construction photos. One of the challenges with this is trying to work alongside a school and not disrupt the busy school day with a construction site. And we've had a good relation with the principal, and thus far I haven't heard any complaints of any sort of disruption. So that's been good. Finishing up ARPA, there were several playgrounds. Most of these were actually done last year, but this is just a reminder that a new playground was installed at Lafayette, at Wayland, at Harbor Road, and then Emice obstacle style playground. The inclusive playground replacing the existing Emice playground is still under design. It should be bid here, I would anticipate, in the next 6 weeks. Ordering, then if we're lucky from a timing perspective, it may be installed yet this fall. If not, it'll be completed the following spring. And then the big one, Main Street Landing. This is the riverfront, the old casino site. This is partially ARPA funded as well as funded through a state grant and some of the CP Railroad funding. 100% of the $16 million is all that type of funding. There's no CIP or tax dollars in this project right now. So this will be a destination park on the riverfront near the base of the Sky Bridge. The picture you're seeing there right now is an image or a rendering of what the play towers may look like. Right now, we're at about 90% design development construction. The hope is to take this to bid sometime this summer and start construction yet this fall. Our A&E services, the Sasaki team out of Denver, is leading the planning of the project, and completion will be sometime in 2026. This is an image of the site plan as it sits now, working from west to east. At the base of the Sky Bridge, or a little bit to the east there, is a flexible activity area that can be utilized for a variety of events and programs in the summer and spring and fall months. In the winter, that'll be converted to an ice rink and used for winter activities. One big challenge of this site was access, and you see in the sort of upper left-hand corner starts where the pedestrian bridge will ramp up and come across the tracks to land inside the park. The center area is the play area, and this is sort of the main focal part of the park. That tower I showed you in a previous slide is located in this area, along with a multitude of different play elements and a water feature. Along the riverfront, there'll be a series of slides into the river. A series of swings and benches for viewing of the river and just passive relaxation. As you progress east, then we get into more than the native or natural area. Picnic groves and picnic tables and shelters will be in this area for just passive park opportunities. Here's a couple other images of the play structures in design. We are working with a company called Earthscapes. They do a lot of very, very custom, unique play features, and it's been a pretty cool experience to work with that team and see how they're conceptualizing. Part of the design is based off, their design intent is based off some of the architectural elements of downtown, particularly the Figge building that's adjacent to the park, as well as the roller dam. So it's trying to play off some of the elements of the community and be truly uniquely Davenport. Here's some inside views of what that play structure will look like. Okay, so that is Main Street Landing. Next is the ARPA funded Cork Hill Splash Pad and Playground. The playground has been installed, that's done. They will start work. The splash pad has been bid and awarded. We are just waiting on shipment of the water components, correct? Billy? Yep. We anticipate work to begin there within the next month. It's a pretty small splash pad, so it's probably like a 6-week working window. So we're again trying to hopefully have this open for this summer as well. If you're familiar right now, or there was a very, very small water feature already in Cork Hill. So this is expanding that and making it a little bit larger of a water feature, a splash pad. Those were the ARPA projects. Park development, you can see this is the FY 23 project list, and we have checked off most of them. The one outstanding one is the skate park maintenance. That was rolled into a larger CIP for the skate park improvements. That contract has been awarded, and we anticipate work beginning there sometime probably late summer into the fall. Trying not to totally disrupt the skate season this summer with that. Other than that, in FY 23, still yet to be done is the Credit Island floor, so that's the next. A couple of the projects that were awarded or initially brought on this were with Davenport Junior Theater. We've, given the fact that we are relocating the theater, we did not move those projects forward just because it didn't make sense to spend money on improvements to that facility if we are no longer going to be utilizing it. FY 24 park development projects, the list is pretty much coming to conclusion. A couple things left, concession remodel at River's Edge, and then of course the dog park funding and projects that were mentioned earlier. And then as well as the education remodel at Vanderveer. So a lot of projects, we're getting a lot of things done. We're gonna have a lot of new amenities and things open to the public here very, very soon. Did I skip? Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry, backing up. Dog park equipment. So this is, as you noted and you're well aware from public comment, that we have some funding for agility equipment and shade structures and other general amenities. This is working now, and everything should be complete here sometime this spring, this summer, done by fall. Skate park improvements, I mentioned this earlier. The $55,000 from park development was paired with a $300,000 CIP standalone. With this, we did really a robust, and I'll give kudos to Teresa and Cole who are leading this project, and Jessica who sort of initiated the public input, but really, really positive feedback from the public and the skaters. We've had a series of input sessions with them and surveys. So aside from some just general maintenance repair on the existing skate park, we are adding a smaller beginner area for newer riders and riders that are just learning the various roller sports. The main skate park can be intimidating at times for a newer user. So along with that, we're optimistic or hopeful that this will bring some younger and some families to the skate park and help with just sort of the overall impression of the park. So like I said, the contract was awarded. Construction and completion will be this fall. And we are working with Spawn Ranch out of California, and they are a leading skate park design company in the nation. Rivers Edge Concession, this was another of the unfinished park development projects, improving some of the coolers, which have been done, some other major, goodness, this is hard, going back and forth trying to read the screen and my sheet. Popcorn maker's been ordered, there's some electrical work to be done, and additional equipment to be ordered. So with the addition of the second rink of ice, this is an improvement that was needed to help bolster our concession revenues at Rivers Edge. And then lastly, CIP improvements. One of my favorites that's come in is the Credit Island Nature Play Area. This is has been under construction, paused for a little bit while we are waiting for the play components. They have shipped. They will be here within a week. So we expect work to resume on site with that, with completion by the start of the summer. This is an elevated natural play area. It's different than a lot of the playgrounds that we have elsewhere in the community. So it's rather a unique feature that will hopefully bring people to the island and families to enjoy this new play feature in the park. Vanderveer Fountain. So this is a new CIP. If you are aware, we've had some mechanical issues with the fountain the past several years. We engaged a fountain expert last fall. Now they gave us a proposal to do sort of an evaluation and look at what is going on and give a recommendation and potential improvements. So this fiscal year, we've asked for $100,000 for that evaluation and potential design. And then there's $1 million placeholder for next year. Worst case scenario is that the entire fountain needs to be replaced and rebuilt. And that's why we've asked for that number based on our initial conversations with the fountain consultant we were working with. So the next step would be to draft an RFP and have responses, then start design and evaluation this year. That should be completed sometime later this year with the idea of heading into 2025 with bidding potential construction and rehab of the fountain. Emice Clubhouse. So this is a project that is desperately needed at the golf course at Emice. The original clubhouse still stands there today from 1964, I believe. We have engaged and have conceptual renderings of what the new facility and cost estimation of about $2.5 million. Right now, we are looking to fundraise roughly 50 to 75% of that cost. We do have a placeholder in the city CIP to help with the rest of it. First Tee is partnering with us on this, and they have pledged or committed $300,000. A part of this building last year, we brought First Tee expanded to program at Emice, and they are in need of, similar to the Red Hawk, indoor classroom space, which the current clubhouse can't accommodate. So with this new facility and their partnership, their funding is really going to contribute to an interior classroom space that they can utilize for their programming efforts. Fundraising is set to commence now. We'll probably spend the next year trying to raise funds, and then at that point, depending on how successful we are, we'll decide if we need to go on to construction documents and bid the project. Very similar to how we approached the Miracle Field, 5-6 years ago. So we are optimistic that the community and the business community supports, foundations support this and are willing to help fund the project. A couple other pictures of what the building will look like. Another CIP program that we asked for this year is some park security enhancements. we've seen and I think we've mentioned this before, a pretty large uptick in park vandalism the last several years. There are, in the industry, there's several park-specific security-type camera systems that we are looking into purchasing several and trying them out at some of our higher vandalized neighborhood parks. So we have 30,000 over the next 3 years, 30,000 each for a total of $90,000 to be spent on park security enhancements. So we're evaluating potential systems right now with the intent to try to get some ordered and in place yet this summer, hopefully. Again, this is a new CIP with the new fiscal year, so the money doesn't come available until July. That is my project update, and I will open it up for questions.
That's a lot at one time. Are
It's
we
a
ready?
lot for us at one time. I mean, if I could take a minute and just commend our staff, and Public Works for their assistance, the engineering and capital division up there. They've been great to help us manage this atypical project load. We typically don't see a project load of this capacity all at once, and they've been very helpful and help us move a lot of this forward, so.
I'm thrilled that we'll have an opportunity to see some of this firsthand in our tour. I will tell you that on KWQC at noon, they were at not Cork Hill, Dose Pool area
Yeah.
for the new thing. So that's there,
And I will mention too, as we complete these and open these, we will have probably a lot of ribbon cuttings that you will all be invited to.
Yay. Questions for Chad at this time? We're open to that.
And the walking track's still going.
The walking track at Wayland. Yes, we are,
It's been like 2 or 3 years.
yeah. So we revised the plans and I think we're ready to bid that back out here shortly, or we're working to revise. Billy has an
Right,
update.
so
Yeah.
Billy Fisher, Operations Manager, we're working with Shive Hattery. They have restarted design to remove some of the interior walking paths to meet budget. But yes, we're working on the design for that. As soon as the design's done, which should be short turnaround, maybe the next week or two, we'll get that back out to bid.
Put a new one in at Wayland.
Yes, so it'll be a continuous loop from the existing sidewalk through the playground, the pavilion, through to the east, to the kind of wooded area to the east, and then back to the existing sidewalk. We're gonna incorporate the existing sidewalk as part of the loop, just to try and stay within budget.
Thank you.
That's great. Are we stymied with the overload?
I just want to make a comment, that's all.
Okay, go Jerry.
I mean, I've sat here and I've listened to all of this, and my gosh, you guys working 24 hours a day to do this? Mike, it's unreal how much you've gotten done and how much you're in the process of doing, and I'm really happy about the clubhouse.
I'm sure you are. Yeah, I mean, aside from just day-to-day operations, which is what we have to do on a daily basis to manage these projects and to couple it, like, I think I like to present all this stuff and I often talk about the park as a system, the park system as a whole, and not, because a lot of times we get a lot of like individualized special interest areas and public that don't necessarily understand the breadth of everything we have to do because they're concerned with just their little world of what they're interested in. So it's helpful for us to portray to you guys that it's much larger than just, say, pickleball courts or golf courses or, very broad area that we deal with every day with some rather limited resources at times. So it helps to hopefully inform the public at least a little bit when things aren't necessarily moving as fast as they would like on their particular project or something.
Well, when you have good people, things happen, and you guys are doing that. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Go for it.
Perfect. I've got a question about the EMI's clubhouse. Are we taking into account any sort of secured golf cart storage?
Yes, yes. So it's not rendered or shown in the building because we worked with an architect, but the next step is to do because there's a couple other improvements that could be tied into this. One would be a range improvement that would include some sheltered bays for more of a year-round aspect and more of a golf entertainment type thing. In siding the building, the other component is looking at golf cart storage, potentially either under it, like underground
Yeah.
in a bunker type thing to where they could be secured, or looking at another modified like shelter type building off of it. So the cart storage and the range are another aspect of this sort of. The primary though is getting the clubhouse fundraised for, and then, but we're working in tandem with those other two aspects. So
I would imagine those two aspects aren't accounted for in this.
it's not accounted
estimated?
for in that cost
In
right
that
now.
cost.
That's just the cost for the building.
And who's the design from on the?
OPN.
Okay.
So they did Fairmont Community Center as well as the new fire station up on Brady. So
I had a question about, I know you're looking at the park security camera component. I'm curious about the connection to maybe using solar power for some of those. Is that the going trend, or it would seem to me it would be a way to prevent cord cutting? I don't know, or wire cutting. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so the cameras we're looking at are solar powered. They're also mobile, so if the vandalism that we see is moving around the city, which right now we kind of have an idea of where it's mostly happening. If that moves, we can move the cameras with them. It's recommended that they're up like 20 to 25 feet high so that they can't be vandalized. They're also Bluetooth enabled, but not Wi-Fi enabled. So our park staff can drive within 100 feet of these cameras, download the footage or the still photos. The cameras also have a capability of being motion activated. So if a person were to come, say in the middle of the night, the camera can give a short message that they're being recorded. So yeah, they're a pretty cool device.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Are we ready to move on? Okay. Yes, Faith.
So if we go back to the second slide of your Main Street landing, which I'm really excited about. I just want you to refresh my memory, back there. So the pedestrian bridge south span kind of runs across the Adventure Play area?
So yeah, it starts up north in that north corner near Dillon Fountain, and then goes under the Sky Bridge, and then right at that entrance there, it takes a little bit, and then it does continue all the way across the play, and then lands sort of
So
east center of the park.
So is that walkway above the Adventure Play area where you look up?
Yep,
It is. So are we gonna cage that in?
yep. It's gonna
Okay.
have rails and yeah, be secure.
And then refresh my memory again, I know.
You can sort of see it right there. See how the
Yeah,
bridge
yep.
runs parallel to the
Yep, I
towers.
see it.
Yep.
Yeah. So then remind me again, what streets that falls between? Is it Perry and Main
Yep.
Street per se? Okay.
I believe the main entrance is Brady corridor, right? Main Street is.
I thought it was Brady too.
It's Brady. Main Street is more near Dillon Fountain
Dillon
and the
Fountain,
Figgy.
okay.
But the main entrance is the Brady corridor
So-
and then
So
Perry.
when you drive down there and you look at that space, I'm like, how are they gonna put all this in this? That's not this looks like it's like.
It's about 19 acres.
Really?
Yep.
this looks like it's like 6, 7 blocks long compared to, you know, like this is, what, 2?
Yeah.
3? But, okay, thank you.
Krista?
I was noticing we have a lot of glass at the Fairmont and EMICE Clubhouse. And being on QCAS committee, I have to say about birds. And I've been in a lot of meetings because we have a lot of buildings in the city that are glass and we just have to have more and more meetings. So I'm gonna say this to avoid meetings. Can we get some Solar Guard bird strike film on those buildings? That's
Yeah, I could, when we get to the, definitely with EMICE, and I can have the, I will double check if it's included on Fairmont, and if not, we can see about a change order and see what that looks like. That's a very good idea. We do not want to clean birds off our windows.
I don't want to do the counts either locally. I don't want to pick up dead bodies, so, thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, as far as Main Street Landing, I was just wondering if, because Riverfront Improvement Commission is next week, I don't know if they're gonna get any of these images, or, I mean, this is the first time I've seen them as far as being in the media or anything like that. I just like to
Yeah,
be able,
I
like,
might get in a little trouble, because I don't know, I don't know if the renderings of the play towers have been really circulated out there, but.
yeah, I don't think they have.
I know the site plan has been floated out there, but.
I would just like to be able to tell Riverfront Improvement, if they haven't seen them, here they are, or here's where you can see them.
Yeah, I'll double check with Courtney to see what her plans in terms of engaging them. But it would make sense as that I've shared some with you guys that they're also shared with Riverfront Improvement.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Great questions. It's fun because it just triggers more and more ideas and thoughts. Are we ready to move on to staff?
I have just one question. We're putting a new roof on the band shell on the other end of
The
Park
Leclerc band shell.
Yeah, the Claire band shell.
I don't know about a new roof. I
Oh, I
know
thought-
we're intending to do some painting and some.
That was my
general
question. Are we gonna
cleanup.
revamp that? 'Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a major,
Yeah, we've been working with actually Riverfront Improvement staffs, or
Okay.
Stephanie, and she's got some quotes that have been passed on to us, and yeah, I think we're gonna get, some painting done and freshen up the banjo.
and what about the farmer's market? I was down there yesterday and I've been down there 2 or 3 times down through there and my gosh, it just kind of an eyesore to a certain point. And not, I guess it shouldn't be, I shouldn't say eyesore is the fact that there's
You mean the
nobody.
building?
Yeah, it's nobody there and no functioning or what's going on there?
That's a Riverfront Improvement Commission oversight. I mean, the Freight House area, you
Yeah.
talking about the building or the actual market in Florian Keene parking
Well,
lot?
they have the farmer's market there, am I correct? Which there's a lot of activity then, but after that, there's just not a lot there. I go down to that diner all the time.
Yeah, the
I go
restaurants
there
and
to eat
stuff,
all the
yeah.
time. I like going there.
I'm not aware of, I don't know, they
I
discussed
mean, it's
that.
not, doesn't look bad. I mean, everything looks nice down there, but there's just nothing there. What can we do to, is there someone in charge of that whole thing?
Yeah, that's Riverfront Improvement Commission has oversight of the Freight House. So that's why I'm looking at Chris to see if he knows anything I don't know. Like we don't have any real oversight of that.
Chris wanted to speak. Now he has something else to add.
Well, I mean, no, I was just gonna, I mean, I'm next as far as the liaison report. I don't know if we're ready to move.
Sure, I think we are. Yeah.
Perfect
As
segue.
far as the Freight House, I mean, I think officially the outdoor market hasn't opened yet for this year. There's some happening. I think people just kind of show up and start being outdoors too. But I think usually it's in May when they have the official first beginning of the outdoor Freight House market. The building itself is getting some repairs over the next year or two and currently. And then there's currently one open space where the ice cream / diner thing was, and they're kind of, right now they're going to focus groups in combination with Kyle Carter from the Downtown Partnership with different tenants of the Freight House and Union Station about kind of long-term planning for that. So they definitely, it's like their kind of top priority almost as far as getting that whole building in its best use And the farmer's market itself is interested in expanding into that empty space for kind of a all week long type of situation, but they're still putting together proposals on that. So it's definitely being looked at. That's like, I would say the Riverfront Improvement Commission, it's their top project right now is everything related to the Freight House and Union Station. As far as the rest of our last meeting, we had a presentation from Visit Quad Cities because they would like to put a large kind of Quad Cities sign at River Heritage Park where the cruise ships disembark that would be paid for by them. And that's going to be discussed at next week's meeting. I think there's going to be some sort of vote by the Riverfront Improvement Commission on whether they support that or not. And then as far as the docks at the different locations, the Marquette Street docks are getting repaired, and they should be good to go. And then the Credit Island docks, I think also are getting some minor repairs, and they're gonna go back in. And then the Busing docks, which is down on South Concord, they need more work before they can go back in, but there's some interest in doing that. And then the other thing is, they're kind of replacing the summer concert series that's been at the bandshell because it's kind of stagnated as far as like the same 20 or 30 people go to that every week. And they're replacing it with what they're calling the Big Nine concert series, which is going to be all along the riverfront at a bunch of different venues, including LeClaire Park, but also even at some private, like at the new movie theater, I think is one of the venues. Yeah, Village of East Davenport, Quinlan Court, LeClaire Park, Ruby's downtown, the Last Picture House, the Freight House, and even Credit Island. They're hoping to have a big concert, kind of reminiscent of the like big rock concerts of the 70s. I mean, obviously they're not going to bring in like the Who or these type of bands that they had back in those days, but they're hoping to kind of reminisce about that kind of big concert at Credit Island. So it's kind of an exciting rejuvenation of the summer concert series. And I think there's more publicity coming about that as they get all the details worked out. But they have a lot of the bands even kind of signed up for that. So they're working on that. I think that's what I had for notes from last month's meeting.
Thank you, thank you. Are we ready to move on?
Yep,
Yes.
so
Okay.
as part of my report, I'm actually going to let somebody else give it today. We have a significant update. You may have heard or saw some articles regarding junior theater and the next step in relocating it. So I've asked our performing arts supervisor, Mr. Daniel Sheridan, to come and sort of walk you through where we are in the process and highlight in particular a webpage that we've developed to keep the public up to date and informed as we move through this process. So, Daniel.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me down. Obviously, you know, when we found out that this transition was going to be happening away from the Annie Wittenmeyer facility late last year, our first initiative was to do a large public input session to receive their feedback and guidance and thoughts on how we should move forward and what we should be looking for in an interim or permanent space for the Davenport Junior Theater Program. And of course, to accommodate the, you know, we do about 2,000 enrollments a year from 35 cities and towns from across the region. The majority of those are Davenport citizens, but it's a big draw, and we serve a lot of kids at all hours and a lot of families. So we received that input, and actually part of, this is the kind of the project page. Well, I should say a task force was formed that's been meeting weekly. And the task force has consisted of myself, of course, Director Dyson, and then our recreation manager, Teresa Hauman, but then also members of Junior Theater Incorporated, our nonprofit board, to make sure that we're all responding to the community input and working together as a group to filter through ideas and, you know, opportunities of, you know, what about this space here? What about this? And how does that reflect back to feedback and program needs? And that's been ongoing, and that's been a great a great resource for us to continue really moving forward with relatively quickly with a lot of progress. So, but Becca Niles, does our communications, had a really great idea of, since this will be a long-term process of creating a project page where people can come back to not only see the latest, but reflect back on other steps that we've been making along the way to figure out this transition. So this is a little small on the screen here in the room, but it looks great on a desktop or computer. It's also mobile responsive. But we developed this page where we will always let the public know the last time it was updated. And then I alluded to some of the information that is provided on here for people to look back on. You know, for instance, somebody could take a look at what the junior theater facility looks like and consists of today, is one of our links. And then from our survey community input session from January, a summary report of what happened, who participated, what the feedback was, and then people can review this to see if we are meeting the mark to our public input and all of our stakeholders. And then the other link here is, you know, so people can understand the reach, impact, and scope scale of the program. So I won't stay here long, but we do 37,605 direct-led program hours a year. That is where an instructor is teaching a student. That's not all the kids do come and see productions. That's not all the events and special things we do. That is just classroom fee-funded programming. So we really impact a lot of kids throughout the year. But you can see the breakdown of all of our programs, what we do, what a schedule looks like, and then different flow charts to understand what the facility sees traffic-wise throughout the year. But the latest, and then obviously this is section for the latest, is the interim facility proposal, looking at the North Park Mall space and the Yonkers box, and then a quick 3-minute survey with some rating questions, but also a series of open-ended questions to make sure that we could really allow a forum for people's open feedback. So we can use that as well. But this is I guess a sneak peek at how we've been envisioning the potential of the Yonkers box space. And this is kind of what went out to the public, a proposed oversight view of the use of the old Yonkers box on the north end of campus. And just some quick highlights. The mall is amenable that we have a single entry on the north side. So we would not have general access ongoing in and out of just people in the mall. So that way we have one secure point of entrance, which will be great. If you've ever been to Annie Wittenmeyer campus, well, we do not have one point of entry. We have many, because we were spread out, 27, because we were spread out over so many different buildings. So, that will be great. One of the important things was the location. This was really a top choice area from our community input on trying to make sure that we stay centrally located. And it also keeps us near some great access corridors, highways, and the people who aren't in Davenport coming into town, hopefully it'll stay accessible to all of them, and they'll want to continue to register and maybe spend some money at the mall and support our Davenport businesses. And then there's ample parking on site. If anyone's been to the Wittenmeyer complex for a production, we spread out. We use 3 parking lots up there, and try to get everybody into our events. There is also a green space. It's larger than you think. You really have to drive by and take a look at it. Our green space at the Wittenmeyer campus is incredibly important to us. We use it for camps. Families will go out and enjoy the green space while their kids are in programs for an hour. So the mall was also amenable to us setting up picnic tables and kind of creating this as a more passive recreation space. And then for camps, there's a quick crossing for us to safely move the kids back and forth with staff. So obviously we don't, our kids are not just, it's recess, we'll come back in 20 minutes. We're always staffed, we're always with them, and we're always taking care of everybody. And there's more square footage here than, there's the opportunity for us to continue to grow. And you can all take a closer look at this later, but, the general floor plan has a single unified lobby space, which right now we maintain 2 staffed lobbies and 5 passive lobbies in multiple buildings for all of our programs. So we'll really be able to connect and serve all the families coming in. And then this wing of the facility is kind of cordoned off for an education section. So we have theater studios, main staff offices up front to support the team, musical theater studios, dance studios, and our tumble studio, kind of all together. And then all of the support, costume shops, and we have a rehearsal stage that's the same footprint of the actual proposed interim theater space, scenic storage. The theater venue, we'll scroll by it, but the current plan that we've worked up, and this is a rough plan because we're just now starting to work with architects. I should mention a junior theater alum, Zach Meyer, who works at the Galvin Fine Arts Center at St. Ambrose, drafted up this model to scale and size and volunteered his time to create these 3D renderings. So we had a starting point to work with the architects. So he's put a tremendous amount of work into it, and we're really grateful. But I'll just and you all can look at this later, but we kind of break out those sections so you can see what the main lobby area would look like. It would house our museum and a play area for kids, and then a bunch of different things that we think will be opportunities for us. Then a different look at the theater studio area and the dance studio areas. So you can see what that looks like in 3D space, because largely right now it's open. Our current proposal was to work with all the existing walls and infrastructure to try to keep costs low. And then for the theater space as well, we have the opportunity to remove our entire lighting network and lighting system. We have the opportunity to, in 2017, our nonprofit partner raised $112,000 to renovate the theater. So they've been very curious about how we can bring that investment with us. All of the chairs will be able to be taken from the Nicewander and installed in an interim location. They're great chairs, as well as all the lighting improvements and LED networked technology that can all be removed from the space and then installed on an interim basis as needed. But there's some looks of what the stage would look like. And again, pardon me if I'm moving quickly, but I encourage everyone to visit our update page for a closer look. And there is an interior, one nice feature now is that there is what we're calling a grand lobby, which is right off the back of the theater that's inside. If anyone's ever been to an event, you're waiting for your little one to come out to tell them thanks. We don't really have a big lobby for 400 people. So we spill out onto the green space. This has a very large internal kind of grand lobby space to gather and not have to do that out in the rain. Yeah, and then our rehearsal studio, costume storage, kind of scoot on through, but it checked kind of almost all the boxes we needed it to check and allowed us to also respond to the public input as well. And then there's a whole quadrant that's still kind of a back area of offices that has potential for further development and usage as well. And then, that links back to the survey, and then we're trying to keep the public up to date right here, and they can come back for the latest information, as well as a timeline that we're trying to stick to not disrupt programming. The goal is to phase out of programming and wrap up mid-May next year, and then have them be ready to start at the beginning of June in 2025. So it's a lot of work, but as you can see, our department's up to lots of projects. So, yeah, let's sing another one. I'm not sure, Chad, if there's anything you wanted to add.
No, I would just add sort of next steps. So as Daniel alluded to, if we're seeking a second round of feedback on this proposal, just to make sure our stakeholders, the public, is good with this space. Assuming that the response is well received, our next step would be to start putting some, because there will be some capital investment in renovating the space that we'll have to incur. Daniel mentioned an architect firm. Again, we are working with OPN to do at least an initial cost estimate, rough cost based off of sort of the conceptualization we've done. And then I need to, get with our city administration and, because we don't have any budget for this currently. It would be to get with them to see if, where the funding could come from. There's no expectation from our nonprofit partner to help fund this. This is the conveyance was a policy created by the city, and it's the city's program to be accountable for relocating. So once those cost estimates, they come in, if we can make sure we have the funding secured, then the next step would be to basically move forward with design, construction documents that we can bid to have this space built out to our needs. And then we'll follow the timeline from there. So right now, this just rolled out because I gave we were working on this, but I had at our management update with council this past Tuesday, I was asked to give an update. And so then it started hitting the media from there because they're present at that meeting. And you guys were next on the list to get that update. So any quick questions we might be able to answer for you on this, or feedback you may have?
Question? Yeah, Farrell?
So I guess I have a couple questions. First of all, is this, the old Yonkers, are we going to be able to purchase that portion of the mall?
They would like us to. That was one of the first questions, but we will enter into a lease agreement. Since
So-
this is gonna be, remember, we're considering this sort of an interim transition. There's still a long-term goal, both within the department and the Junior Theater Inc. and stakeholders, to build a standalone facility. Like I mentioned with that parcel on 46th and Eastern, that the neighborhood came inquiring about the neighborhood park, that 20 acres, that would be an ideal set aside for a future site at some point, but it would take several years to fundraise and build that into a capital plan to build a facility of that nature.
So the reason I was
Oh,
asking
sorry.
is a couple of things. A lot of these large locations like that are notorious for raising your rent. And if you have a facility that you've put that much money and effort into breaking up and laying out as beautifully as it is, it's kind of pigeonholes where you need to stay in that location. And I know not even a block like behind US Cellular, there's two huge buildings that have been up for sale, not knowing how long that permanent location would be, as well as the things that go on in the mall. I've seen brawls, I've seen chases through the mall, and I don't think, even as a parent wanting that, I'm coming there for lessons and different things, kind of maneuvering through maybe a cloud of mace or something, I just wouldn't want to do.
Well, as Daniel mentioned, we're not gonna have a point of entry off of the main mall.
Okay.
So that was intentional based on some of those probable concerns with some activities that have happened up there, along with basically being, if we had two entrances, we would have to have double the staff and a secondary lobby. This gives us, so the only way to access for our opportunity would be coming in through the main doors off of the parking lot.
In the back, yeah.
Yep.
I'm familiar.
So, and then I can tell you, at least initially, we've been given a pretty favorable lease agreement from a rent standpoint. I can tell you that I think the mall is very excited to potentially have this there, not only to help enhance the mall, and also bring probably additional foot traffic that might help with some of the issues and lack of tenants that they have up there. So, yeah, but it is intended to be interim with that long-term goal. So the lease right now we're looking at is a 3 to 5 year sort of lease while we try to line up that future phase, so. And the capital build out, yeah, we are very conscious of the idea that this is interim, so we want to not invest to the standards that we need to operate, but not over invest to the point where we feel like we spent a ton of money putting this in and now we have to potentially stay, so.
Marcel?
I think I've got a question picking back off of that. So the lease is 3 to 5 years, you said. Is there any tenant improvement budget? Is there?
Yeah, there's this pretty significant credit in there for construction,
There is, okay.
yeah. So I can tell, well, so the standard retail rental rate is like $3 to $4 a square foot at the mall. We're probably 10% of that.
With a tenant improvement.
With a
budget.
substantial, I mean, yeah, that site, that box is set vacant since 2017.
Yeah.
So there is a pretty big incentive from the mall to work with us on this aspect, so.
And
My next
they've been very collaborative and responsive too, which has
Yeah.
been nice, so, yeah.
My next question was gonna be, if there wasn't, could this be a potential long-term plan?
That was one of the questions council asked me. I mean, we really want to make sure we tell this story as interim. I mean, because but could it work out great and be fantastic? I don't know. Like, until we get into the space and operate it and figure it out, I can't discount that as saying, wow, this is fantastic. The one issue though, that probably won't resolve is the actual performance, and the theater space in this is gonna be significantly, or a little bit less than what we have now. I think we're going from about 350 seats to 250. So long-term, that alone is not ideal for performances. So it could, but I think given that aspect, ideally, even dating back to Mary Nicewander's vision in the 70s to have a facility of their own, I think that's still sort of the dream and aspiration of the junior theater people.
Okay, thank you.
Krista? Did you have a question?
Are we still selling the school for pennies on a dollar? That seems to be a big question with people, is what's going
The
on with
school?
Widmeyer, yeah. And what the plan
Well,
is.
it's being conveyed for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is?
The infrastructure, and the cost that the city incurs to maintain that site is come to the point where long-term investment is just not
Conducive.
conducive.
I
And
understand.
there is a developer that is willing to come in and,
He does well, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, right, there's just a lot of infrastructure and structural issues with the facility. I mean, it dates back to the mid-1800s, so,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we need to move on, or we can continue. I have one question. Not long ago, there was the big movement on what's going to happen with North Park Mall. And I believe that there were lots of generated concepts of North Park, including not having it at all anymore thing. There's been a spectrum. So how would moving in this direction, how do you see it fitting in from that happened, that discussion that happened earlier about the area
So,
itself?
working parallel with this right now is the mall study. The city, within the Economic Development Division, Bruce Berger's team, they are working with a consultant on long-range visioning for the mall. And we actually, since that is in process now, we brought this to them to get their thoughts as to, because that is a concern, right? Are we gonna move there and 2 years down the road, the mall is sold and developed and all that? As far as that planning process right now relates to this, is that it's favorable in us relocating there. There's no intent to do anything different with the Yonkers box. I believe there's a portion that may have recommendations on the Sears end in like demolishing that portion and rehabbing. But as far as this box, the feedback we got from the consultant team on that is that this would be a good use and would be recommended within their plan.
Thank you. Thank you. Shall we move on? Are we good at this point? Yeah. Good? All right.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you.
very
Appreciate
much.
everyone's.
It's exciting. We did have a written staff report, and I'll ask, is there a burning question in regard to the information report that we got from our staff? Nothing. They were so complete, let me tell you, very detailed, and that was wonderful. The only thing I wanted to say is that just recognizing that we have a dedicated employee that has left La Friends, and so I wanted to make sure that we acknowledged her work on behalf of all that goes on with River's Edge, because she has played many roles as I moved in and out of there. So I wanted to make sure that we acknowledged her work on behalf of Davenport Park and Rec. So I'd like to say that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What?
We will let her know.
Please do. The question now is, we're at this point in time, are there suggestions for future agendas at this point? We have so much information now, it's just continuing updates seems to be a logical point to keep ourselves informed about that, because there's so much that's gone on. But are there agenda items that we want to make sure? Faith?
I do. I'm with regards to the dog parks and that discussion earlier. There was something that was brought to me from various people in the community, is signage for everybody, no running in the dog parks. There have been, I guess, people, you go down there with your kids and you don't tell the kids don't run. You really shouldn't run when there's other dogs present, because then it triggers them to chase you and knock you down and go from there. So I know there's been requests to ask if that could be posted at the dog parks. And then I'm definitely in favor of the bumps down there. I've bottomed out my car a few times. I lived on 32nd and I don't go that way anymore at all. I haven't lived there in a few years, but I don't go that way anymore. It's just, they're very close together. So I think it ultimately, it deters traffic away from them. With summer coming, that park's gonna get really packed with motorcycles and different things. I think speed cameras and, that type of thing, but with kids and dogs. And then in regards to the parking on North Marquette, didn't we discuss when we had the committee taking that sidewalk area out and putting parking in front of there, or no? Do you remember?
Those were among some of the suggestions when we were talking just in general. That area is not, parking and traffic controls is not something that we would be able to oversee. So that was not something that was part of the actual guidelines or the document that we developed. Because that's not a decision that we can make. We can bring it to Public Works and work with the street engineers and give them that feedback.
That feedback, yeah, and that's a pretty wide street, and most of the people park along there, so I was just curious. I don't have my notes, I didn't recall, but that would be it for me.
Are we ready to move on to adjournment of our meeting, or?
I've got one thing.
Okay, please.
We need people for the Trails Committee. We need walkers and runners. We've got plenty of us bicycle people. So if you know somebody, ladies or men or anybody that walks or runs in your ward, have them go to the website or talk to them first. Have them apply. There's a link, and we want one person from each ward. So we need walkers and runners, people of that interest now. We've got plenty of us bicycle people, but we need regular walkers and runners. So if you guys would do that, kind of canvass your ward and anybody, tell them to apply, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's on the city page.
I can give you the link if you want. If you go to davenportiowa.com/parks, on the left-hand side, you'll see, if you scroll down a little bit, there's QC Recreation Trails. And that page has been completely updated and has a whole section on the Trails Committee.
Did you send that out to each?
I plan on sending an update after this meeting, probably first thing tomorrow morning. I'm going to give you a digital copy of the presentation you had today, a link to the Junior Theater website, and then I can include the link for the sign up in that as well.
Great.
Was that your question, Krista?
Oh, no. Okay, mine, I got a couple emails again, so I just wanted to come back around to conversations I've mentioned previously in the year. Actually, as we speak and it rains, we have soil and erosion problems again at Veterans Park. Although mulch is not a problem for the river, it seems that other people do think so. And of course, we still have a soil and mulch spillway pretty much into the Mississippi since the erosion socks have been removed. So I don't know if we have to grade down that soil to a certain degree or specifically put up a perimeter wall right there because the drainage is so rough.
We'll follow up with the project manager on that and see what can be done.
And then the other thing was the bench that was put in. It's of course to spec. It's fabulous, beautiful bench, but it's already slanted. So of course, soil and erosion is of course going to be a continuous problem there until we get it dealt with. And then the last thing is, I know it was on the city, but are we going to have toxicity reports for that area for the veterans and volunteers?
Not within our department, but I can, again, we'll check with the project. I've not heard any such thing coming or be an issue, but I will bring that up to them.
Thank you. Other comments, concerns? I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
Is there a second?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this very busy, informative meeting. As a notation, please remember that we'll meet here to begin our travel, our investigation travel, and to plan your time from 4:30 to 6:30, that'll be extended for the tour. So keep that in mind, okay? Now, a vote, please. A vote, please. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Do I hear abstention or no? Well, on your way. Don't drown in a flood on the way home. Thank you.